Hi everyone and welcome back. Welcome to my playlist which talks about all about microservices, and this is my first video, and as I promised that we are going to start from very basic, and this playlist is for everyone. So what we are going to do in the first video is how to baseline a JavaScript TypeScript repository. So either you work on a microservice, either on Express TypeScript or the Nest CLI or Koa, Happy.js or any other JavaScript framework to build the APIs. You always need a baseline repository so that you can extend it and you can reuse the configurations from the baseline. Like, okay, these are like common configurations which you always need to have. TypeScript related configurations, prettier, ESLint, Husky, commitlint, Docker related test or just library related configurations, deploy script and CI/CD, and these are some JavaScript toolings which you always need. So what we are going to do is first we are going to work on creating the baseline template. That baseline template I can use my any of my project if you are building an independent repository. Most of the cases I always use a monorepo, and in the monorepo you just put a global configurations on the top, and then inside a packages or applications you start adding your microservices, right? So you can have a baseline template on your GitHub, GitLab, and you can just always fork that template to create any new microservice. So you always have those global standards configurations, lint configurations, or prettier configuration, or Husky, git commit hooks, all those things are always there. You don't need to write it, and nobody wants to write things again and again. So that is what we are going to talk about in this particular video, like creating a minimal microservice baseline, and then you can extend that. Okay, I wanted to use Express or nextjs or nest CLI or Koa, Happy, or maybe something else. Okay, so let's get started. If I talk about, there are different CLI tools we have, right? We create a Nest CLI, nextjs project, Express app generator, Express TypeScript app generator, nextjs app CLI, right? Or I mean, right now I think there is every project contains a CLI which helps you to bootstrap the projects from the basics. You don't need to do anything. It will just initialize the repository, create a skeleton of folders. Either you are using TypeScript or without TypeScript, just a simple JavaScript, Next.js, Nest.js, all those things it is giving you. So the video which I'm talking about can be used once you have a project created through CLI, and then start adding the global configurations about all these things. So we will be adding Git related configurations, Git hooks, and all CI/CD related TypeScript, JavaScript compiler related configurations, prettier, ESLint, Husky, commitlint, and commit conventions configurations, Docker related, Docker compose, Docker file, test related, how you can configure a test in your project, either a JavaScript, TypeScript, React, Next.js, or any kind of project, and how you can add a deploy script, test related configurations like just config, or if you are using some other runner like Karma and Jasmine, and script for automations, like if you are doing end-to-end automations and all those things. So this is what I'm going to talk about. This, as the title says, we are going to talk about some global things which you need in each and every JavaScript TypeScript projects, and that you can keep as a template. Either you can start your project from ground zero, build this template first, and then start adding your stuff like, okay, React, I need a React dependency, Next.js and all, or create the project with the CLI and then add all these configurations on top of that. So let's get started. It's just an independent video that I will share on the GitHub link, and you can just take a look. So let's take a look like what all configurations and all we need. So let's talk about code baseline and repository tools, right? Whenever you are baselining the code, you need a VS Code. So that's the first, you need to have VS Code installed. Then you need all the required plugins and extensions. I mean, the most common popular plugins, prettier, ESLint, Node.js extension pack, import coast, or some theme which you really like, prettier, ESLint, I mean, all the global all the most popular extensions which helps you to write code, some linters, some autocomplete tools and all. I mean, those are like popular plugins and extensions available on VS Code. Then we have Prettier, like we have Prettier, ESLint, Husky, CommitLint, and you can also install the plugins and extension for GitHub. So you can actually do a git push, git commits, and all those things you can do. Git glance is there, which is a VS Code plugin. Similarly for CI/CD, for Docker, all these things, there is an extension and plugin available. Install that. Then we will talk about how to set up Prettier, ESLint, and Husky. These are like 3 independent tools. Husky to create a git hooks, CommitLint to enforce the commit conventions. Obviously, you need to have a README file. If you are using Docker Compose or Dockerization, containerization, then you will use a Docker. So all those things we need for our project, right? So these are like additionally you need code configurations like code modules, whatever the code you are going to write, that should be modular enough, right? So these are if you talk about all the required plugins, right? For JavaScript, TypeScript, there are enough amount of plugins are available which can like autocomplete formatters for the TypeScript code, for JavaScript code, or for Prettier to make your code look pretty. Husky actually provides a git hooks, so you can add a hook with the git commit. So whenever you are doing commit, the hooks will run and that will check the Prettier, format, ESLint stuff and all. Before you raise a commit, it will check the code conventions, code styling, formatting, and Prettier rules. The CI configurations, you can have a GitLab CI and all. README, obviously all the projects must have a README file to just showcase the documentation about what the project is, how to set up the project, how to run the project, how to test the project, and there is any troubleshooting if you need. So this is where we are starting. What we need to do, we create a simple README file. And this is how you can just create a simple README file, because here we are creating a baseline template for our projects. So here what the basic README file contains, okay, the installation instructions, setup, test, build, how to deploy it, any important notes or troubleshooting guide, all those things, right? So what are the requirements, like prerequisites? What is the Node.js version? What is the NPM version, right? What is the package manager, NPM, yarn, or PNPM? I mean, and which particular version you are using? It should be greater than 16.18.x, or you should have a VS Code or some nice editor where you can do. You need to have a GitHub. Obviously, you will be cloning, so you already have a GitHub, and then all the required plugins and extensions to just work and make your task easy. Right now, for the installation, what anybody will do, they will just clone the repository. They will go inside the folder. They will run the npm install command to install all the dependencies which are there in the package JSON, and then npm run start if you wanted to start the project, or just npm run build to build the project. So now for the setup is like, okay, copy the environment configurations into .env, then npm run build, npm run test, npm run clean, all those package JSON scripts you will be running to get things done, right? So here we need to create an environment first for that, and put the environment variables into .env using maybe some module like .env we might be using. Then npm run, this is how you will set up. Npm run dev, that's to start. Npm run deploy, there may be some command, but before that we will do npm run test, npm run build, everything is good. Npm run start dev, maybe to test if the application runs fine. I mean, these scripts you already know what the meaning. Test is test, npm run test. Npm run deploy is deploy. Npm run dev to check the setup is done properly or not, right? And then you can do the end-to-end testing using Cypress, end-to-end testing, or npm run test unit, whatever the test command you have. Right now you can start creating a basic package JSON, like you can initialize the repository using git init command, and then npm init command. Git init to initialize the repository, npm init to just create a package JSON and create a JavaScript, initialize a JavaScript project, which can be JavaScript, TypeScript, or can be a front and back end, or maybe a monorepo using PNPM, or integrated or package based monorepo using nnex, right? Now we will create all the required files like .env. So now what we are talking about, we are talking about what all the basic things you need to have in your setup. It's not a constraint that you need to have it like this only, but it's good to have. Like, okay, if you want to build a project from the start and you want to have some boilerplate which you can use anywhere, like a commit configurations, prettier, ESLint, those are common for every project. TS config, TS build config, or some Docker configurations, a deploy script, a test related setup using jest. All these are common which you can use anywhere, right? So all those things you can just create. Here we are creating npmrc and vmrc just to npmrc if you wanted to, if you are accessing some private repository from your organizational GitHub account, or nvmrc to fix the node account when you are deploying it to a Netlify or in any external environment which is doing npm install. So what is the base version? They should bootstrap first, right? So and then we have a git prettier rc to enforce the prettier standards. Like currently I have only 2 rules, and then prettier ignore. There are set of files which I wanted to ignore, like coverage, test, build, node modules, artifacts, assets. Those we don't need to look into for running the prettier. So just do a prettier ignore file and put all the paths there, and then here we can just start installing all the required dependencies which we need. So here I'm going to talk about those specific dependencies one by one. It's not that okay you just install all these dependency, also understand the meaning. Prettier npm module husky to create a git hooks, a register git hooks, prettier husky, and then .env to populate the environment variables from .env to process.env, which is a Node.js JavaScript environment. Then ESLint, obviously ESLint is the latest we are using, and there may be some compatibility in the versions because some package I'm going to copy paste and some packages I'm installing directly. Like ESLint is already there as a 9.0, 8.52.0. we can stick to only 7.x or something lesser. Prettier is 3.0.3. you will do npm install, and you can see there is a compatibility issues that ESLint 8.52 is not compatible with all the other peer dependency issue, right? So we will just stick to 7.32. if you want to upgrade the ESLint to 8.x, then obviously you need to upgrade the ESLint config, ESLint plugin, and unused import, because these are like peer dependencies, and if you break them then you need to correct the package version. Here we need a tsjest, tsnode, typescript. These are like a common dev dependencies you need to have when you are using jest, and a tsc typescript configuration to run the build. So here we will create tsconfig.json, tsconfig.build.json. So if you want to have a separate configurations for test also, you can have it, tsconfig.test.json. While doing tsc command, TypeScript compiler, tsc command, you can specify the path of the file which you want to use during build. So this is the base tsconfig, and in the tsconfig build you can import the base configurations and override some rules if you want. So here compiler options, I'm doing some false. So we are going to generate a build as output directory. Source is the default input directory. Okay, now we can create a ESLint RC or ESLint ignore. All the ESLint rc.js, obviously the required file is it contains the configurations. Okay, what is the parser you are using, what are the plugins you are using. So here you can see it is extending the recommend and ESLint recommend. Parser is TypeScript ESLint parser, and the parser options, and then plugin is TypeScript plugin. This is the plugin you are using. So always be careful with the ESLint version. Either you are using 7.x or 8.x. You need to check the compatibility. We can use a git ignore to ignore the files so that we don't commit the files which we don't need to push to GitHub. And here we are just creating the other required configurations. Let's say CI configuration, CI/CD. So you can create a GitHub actions, just a simple .github. Inside that you can create these actions, or you can just create a gitlab ci.yml. Here you will define the steps if you want to deploy this project to GitLab. Otherwise, all the other required configurations are just config for the testing, and you don't need to worry about how the configuration looks like. You can copy these from the Jest website. I have already a configured project that I'm using, so I can just copy paste the Jest configurations which I wanted to use for this demo. So we will have a Jest config that is going to look into the test folder having files with the spec.ts, and it is going to run them. So it's like npm run test that is going to pick all the spec.ts file from the input. We can create other folder like test, source. Inside source you will start creating the modules, modular folder structure. Inside test we have test cases already added, prettier ignore, git ignore, ESLint ignore. All these are actually required files and they know what to ignore. And then here you can see ESLint. This is how you can get started with the ESLint. It gives you some basic instructions what you need to do. And then we have prettier configurations. We can just write a simple prettier, and then how to set up it. You just start executing the prettier command using npm run prettier write or npm run prettier. Okay, and the next thing we are installing is this commit lint to enforce the constraint our commit, like what should be the commit message, how it should look like. So we are using commit lint CLI. Okay, and here you need to extend it. Inside you need to create a simple file, commit lint config. So once the installation is done for the commit lint CLI, some dependency I still need to install, that's not done. Before I will just populate this in the package in the commit lint config.js. This is a commit lint config, and then I can start executing my tests. So this is now the next thing is we are going to install Husky. Husky is actually a hook, okay, to enforce some rule on the how we do the commit. It's like it used to create a git commit hooks. So whenever you are doing git commit, git push, you wanted to execute some script before, so you can check all the content in it, right? So here we are just heading it. So this is a simple example. What this example is doing is, in this example we are actually adding a pre-commit hook. If you see the add hook, first of all we added this script inside a package JSON, npm package set script.prepare. So there is a prepare script we have added as a Husky install. So when you do npm run prepare, Husky will get configured on your repository. Then here what you are doing inside a Husky, in the pre-commit hook we are adding npm test, and then we are adding a pre-commit, and then when you do commit, it will execute npm test command for your local setup. So why it is executing? I'm doing commit, I have nothing to do with the tests, I'm just doing commit, but the npm test is being executed. Why? Because I have registered a pre-commit hook. So even before the commit is added, this will get triggered, so that we can also test how that is happening. I did a commit and it is executing npm run test, that is correct, and it is exiting with the status code 1, and this is the pre-commit hook which we just have added, right? So similarly we will create these all the required hooks from my base projects. So you can just paste all those things inside a Husky folder, all the hooks you wanted to register. So here we have all the commit hooks ready, and if you see what these commit hooks contain, pre-commit, it will run npm run lint, npm run prettier, pretty much straightforward. Whenever you are doing pre-commit, it is going to execute these two commands, and then prepare commit message, that is, if you can see, I hit git commit. So obviously it is running the lint command, lint script, but I don't have it. So maybe I will also populate some scripts inside package JSON which is doing a lint. Lint is ESLint. Now I execute it, lint is now running, but I need to install this plugin so that ESLint can run successfully. So I think I need to just play with some versions, because and also I need to check if I already have all the required dependencies. I think ESLint plugin I don't have, so I need to install the required dependencies which are not there, and also we can configure the npm run prettier and prettier write. So this is how I'm doing commit, and then obviously there is a plugin missing, ESLint is 7.0.32, that is fine. I need to add these dependencies as a dev dependency, and it is breaking. So maybe something we have not done correctly. PA dependencies of 101. I think these are some of the dependencies which were missing. The ESLint plugin, the core dependency, the main dependency was not there. Now you can see the ESLint is running, and then it is trying to execute the pre-commit. So first of all, I will just create an index.ts file so that ESLint will run, and I can see that now it's complaining for the file. So that means it is running properly. I can do npm run prettier write to format the files based on the prettier rule, and then I can just do git commit. So and you can see this is broken. That means some dependency is not installed or not configured properly. Node module been seized. Okay, yeah, we haven't added the commit gen and commit gen change log. So I will just do npm install again, and it will install all the dependencies which we need. So this is like a standard baseline, all the dependencies, nodemon, ESLint plugins, ESLint config, and commitlint CLI. And I did npm run prettier right, and I'm just doing commit, but something again I got stuck. So this is the issue which I was facing, and I think this is the probable fix. I can just execute this command to initialize the change log commit constraint. So I will just copy this and I will paste it here. I need to enforce it. And then I can enforce it, and then I can just execute the prettier command, prettier write. It should be able to execute the prettier write in this case. So here it's a git commit hook, right? Prettier run. Okay, now it's successful. That's what we want. I can just do like and the heart icon so that other can also fix this problem using this command. So now our prettier works fine, and our ESLint also works fine, and these hooks are executing properly. And here you can see this is the prepare commit message, right? And I can just do git add, git commit. This is the configuration which you need to add in the package JSON to enable this commit. And now I can add the additional script like build tsc minus p, and you can just specify the config which you config like tsconfig.build.json. This is the file I wanted to use to run the build command, npm run build. And I can also execute the pre-build task, which will check the Node.js version, which will clean the build folder or the dist folder, all those things we can execute. We can hit all the scripts. This is to enforce the package engine, because what happens is when we create a project, somebody uses a Node.js 14, some 16, some 18, or somebody is still using legacy which is not even supported now, 12 or 10. So we are enforcing that your node version should be 14.x. I mean, you should start using node 18 as the latest LTS support, because 16 is also going away for the support now, because now the libraries needs to be upgraded and your project should migrate with the Node.js version. So these dev engines will enforce you to use. We can add a script to check versions. So whenever you are doing check engine or check version, so whenever you are running any script like commit or build or test, you will always check, okay, what is your version. And here we are doing check engines. Clean script is still missing, so what we can do is we can add this clean script manually, which will just remove the folder like build, coverage, dist, all these folders it will do. Now I can do npm run build, which will do npm run pre-build, which will do clean and check the Node.js engine, right? If you look into this package JSON, here build, clean, pre-build. So when I'm doing build, pre-build will get executed, because this is how the package scripts are work. It will always check for the pre-hook, pre-build. Let's say you are executing npm run task, so it will always check pre-task or post-task is there in the package JSON script or not. And now these are my configurations. I have almost everything. We can also set up the tests. So here these are the standard versions you need to use. Don't forget them. I'm using ESLint 7.32 configured with the prettier, the same fixed set of versions. Okay, if you are moving to ESLint 8.x, then obviously you need to check for the updated versions and compatible versions for the config prettier, or first install the ESLint and then install all these packages. So appropriate version automatically will be taken care by npm while installing the package, because we don't specify the version, and it will check, okay, ESLint is there, and then this is how it will become compatible. Install that. So here we are going to execute npm run test, and inside test you can just use jest. So we also need to check, okay, what all just configurations we need, just config.js. So here we are doing npm run test. That will fail because we don't have any test file. So I can create inside source folder index.spec.ts. Okay, so this is the last thing we are setting up. Additionally, you can set up a docker compose, GitLab configurations or GitHub actions, all sort of things. Here you can just set up all the test related configurations, test related package scripts, which is npm run test, npm run ci, npm run test end-to-end, npm run test unit, npm run coverage to create a coverage, npm run watch that will execute the keep executing the test when you are changing the files on the fly. Okay, so here you can also have a separate env.test file to have a separate environment rather than just using .env file which we are using for local development. And here inside just config you can specify, okay, initialize the environment with some .js file. And here I found this issue, which is a GitHub action reporter. So for that I need to downgrade my jest version from the Stack Overflow and all. I found that out, so I need to just downgrade that version and then it starts working. At least you won't be facing this GitHub action reporter issue. So I just moved GitHub to 20.20.x, but it has created a small issue with an uncompatibility between ts jest and jest, so that we can figure out easily. Install jest 28.0.0 and then install ts jest. So it will also install a ts jest of version 28.x. Okay, so this is the master of all the boilerplate which is required for your project. Now the configurations can be different. You might be using GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. You might be using Jenkins, GitLab CI, Circle CI, and you might be using some custom configurations for the deployment. You might be using Azure, Google Cloud Platform or AWS, right? So those configuration depends on your runtime platform. But other than that, prettier ESLint, commit conventions, test configurations, your Docker configurations for local development and test setup all look similar. So you can consider this as a master boilerplate for your projects. Okay, so that's all I wanted to cover in this video. Thanks everyone. Thanks for watching. We also did some kind of a troubleshooting, like we were not able to set up this commit lint, and then I fixed that using that command by initializing the commit lint, commit gen locally, and it worked. So those things you might face, so always look into the video for troubleshooting. That's all. Thanks everyone. This video is independent of any playlist. You can use this for creating your baseline monorepo, any kind of repository for JavaScript, TypeScript projects for front end, back end, and full stack. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for watching. If you like